Hello,
Hello, is this Dr. Fink?
that would be me.
How you doing? This is Dustin from KMSU.
Hey, Dustin.
First of all, I'll introduce you to my co-host, Ton.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Awesome. Well, yeah, if you're ready to do this thing, then I guess we'll start off asking you kind of how you got started just playing in music.
How I got started in music?
Yeah,
You're
how,
asking me
how
to start with?
yeah, what did you like? Primarily, your instrument is keyboards, right? Or was there something else that got you started? Or
I play keyboards. Yeah, I started out playing, the piano when I was about 7 at the old homestead with my folks starting me on piano lessons, at that time. And my parents are both veterans of the Minneapolis theater community theater community here, and they were also musical, and really introduced me to a wide variety of the arts and culture growing up, and in particular musical theater and regular old acting theater, and they used to do some professional voiceover work, and also my father directed plays around town and did radio and TV spots. And my mom had her own talent company at one time with several actors, that they would book for that kind of work, voiceover work and on-camera stuff, and all the while running the family advertising specialties business. So a lot going on in my childhood with that exposure to all that, and I did a stint at the Children's Theater Company of Minneapolis there, going to school there as a kid growing up and learning, dance and music and acting and all that. A lot of fun.
sure, sounds like you had stayed pretty busy as a kid. So then,
Yeah.
how did that kind of transition into when you met Prince and became part of the Revolution?
Well, by the time I was around 12 and a half, I started my first band with the neighborhood kids who were all playing instruments, and then we stuck it out through our senior year of high school with a few changes along the way in that band, but it pretty much was the same nucleus of guys. And a couple years after graduating high school, I had the opportunity to audition for Prince through knowing Bobby Ruzzi, the drummer who was working for Prince's first manager at that time, kind of like an assistant. And then once Bobby was officially brought on board to be the drummer, they were still looking for one more keyboard player to fill that last seat slot in the band. And along about fall of October of 1978, I received an audition with Prince, and he made a decision to bring me on at that time.
And then how did the character Dr. Fink, how did that end up coming about?
Well, that just came about as we were honing our stage personas, and Prince came to me and asked me to try to come up with some different looks and ideas, and that was the one that stuck. That basically is how that happened. Pretty early on, like within the first year of being in the group.
Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like, being in the group? Obviously, a lot of people have different opinions of Prince, and you hear things about, if he's difficult to work with, or what was your opinion of it at the time?
My opinion of it, it's wide ranging, but all in all, I'll say that Prince is a dedicated, hard-working, ultra-talented individual with God-given gifts that he has brought into the world, and he expects, perfection from those around him because he works so hard at what he does. But it's a joy, it's a joy of work. It's a fun work being an artist and being creative in that respect. It doesn't really feel like work. It just feels like a really fun time all the time because you're just doing what you love usually. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it, I suppose. I know how some people have jobs and eventually they go, no, maybe I didn't. I'm not sure I like this now. But if most musicians I know enjoy it because you're giving people joy. You're performing in front of people, and it's fun. It's like a party.
Yeah.
So, so Prince, he was on top of his game really 24/7 the whole time I worked with him for the 12 years I was his keyboard player. But the amount of discipline that he put out there, he expected from everyone else, and if you couldn't keep up with him, he'd let you know. He was not pleased with that, or if you came to rehearsal unprepared, or if you were, not on top of your game like he was, then you could have issues with him. And I know that I personally was not the most perfect person in that respect, quite as dedicated as he was at times. And, and like everyone in the group, we all had a hard time keeping up with him, really, because he would go 24/7, and the rest of us wanted to go more like, 16/8. Most of us like to get our sleep, but he wasn't sleeping much, really, all that time. I think maybe he was doing 4 hours a night average, and when he wasn't sleeping, he was either rehearsing the band or writing music or recording it in the studio. So that's one thing about him that fans should know, the amount of dedication that he puts into his craft, and that's why he is such an amazing talent on stage and great songwriter.
Can you tell us a little bit about the songwriting process? I mean, was it mostly just stuff that he came up with and told you, or did you guys collaborate, or how did that work?
There was collaboration. There was influence coming from people in the group, pretty much from the get-go. And but with that said, usually he would only take musical ideas from people. He really wasn't much to take for taking lyrical content from people in the band, although he did work with Des Dickerson here and there on some music for the time, a couple songs that Des contributed that he wrote, and I contributed music to about 6 songs over the years. Other members of the band, Lisa and Wendy Melvoin and Lisa Coleman, they were integral for a period with some production work and writing, co-writing, and then even the bass player Mark Brown and Bobby Z had a little bit of input as well when it comes to the songwriting. But really, if you want to put a percentage on it of what Prince did to what the group really contributed, I'd say it was about at least 90% Prince, with the band, doing some musical ideas here and there, or contributing something that he liked and he would latch on to and create a song around. And then there was a lot of session work, of course, where we played on the albums, but it wasn't really true the songwriting part of it,
Right.
So, but I would say the Purple Rain album, the Revolution contributed to at least half of that album and had co-writing on a couple songs on there. So that was probably the biggest contributed creative part on that record.
Yeah, so you just mentioned the Purple Rain. I guess, what are your memories kind of like filming that and the album? And I mean, that was such a huge success.
Yes, the filming process, of course, mostly took place right at First Avenue at the nightclub, and then there were some scenes where we were in a dressing room, which was actually a set that was created to depict the dressing room, because the real dressing room at First Avenue at that time was pretty small and cramped and really wasn't logistically workable as a scene in the movie, but they made up something that worked. But then the rest of the filming, the live performance parts of whenever we were performing, it was all done at the club, and all that stuff with all the extras, jamming in there like a big crowd and all kinds of stuff. It was right there for about 3 weeks, just nonstop for those parts of the film. And then any of the other scenes that had nothing to do with First Avenue were usually done around the Twin Cities or in sound stages, probably out. And I think they did some things out in Los Angeles too, here and there. But that was that process. And then when we recorded music for the album, we did a special performance introducing some of the songs from the album at First Avenue for the Minnesota Dance Theater benefit show, because we were using their facility to do dance training for the movie, and Prince decided to help them out with a fundraiser, and then that concert was recorded, and the majority of the basic tracks for half of that album were taken from that performance and then expounded upon in the studio later and mixed.
Wow.
And the actual version of Purple Rain was recorded there, but it was there was a longer version of that song recorded that evening with an extra verse, which was later edited out of the final version. And then real string players were brought in to do the orchestral parts of that song later on and overdubbed.
Wow.
But that's how that came together.
Were you surprised at all at how huge that whole thing kind of got?
You know, I wasn't totally surprised. Of course, my wishes and prayers were for that album and that movie to become successful. And, you know, it really, there's no way to predict how that's going to go, you know, when it first comes out. But from seeing, you know, parts of the movie as it's being filmed and knowing what the music was like in advance, that I had a pretty good idea that it was going to be successful. So I thought it would be successful on some level, you know,
at
the box office and in album sales. We knew that in 1999, the album previous to that had done well over 2 million worldwide, which is in those days was nothing to sneeze at. So we thought, okay, you know, with that in mind, yes, I thought, oh, well, you know, if we do another 2 to 5 million records worldwide, that's a success. And of course, it did closer to 9 to 12 million worldwide after about a year and a half of sales. It was way up there. But, you know, it was great. And yes, I really felt it would be successful.
And around that same time, you talked about, you know, Prince wanting to do everything 24/7. And, I mean, you were playing on a lot of side projects, you know, for Madhouse and The Time and Vanity 6.
Yes.
Was it difficult for you to keep track of doing all that stuff at once, or what are your thoughts on that?
No, because, you know, I mean, when I played on the First Time album, I was really just doing a couple synthesizer solos. It wasn't like extensive work. The Vanity 6 album, I don't remember exactly what I did, if anything, on that. I maybe played on one song as a session player. And as I said, you know, Controversy, Dirty Mind, I played on that record. That was the first album I played on, which was the third album. And up until that time, nobody had played on the first or second album. That was all Prince. And then, you know, from going forward from the third album, the band members were brought in to play on a few songs in the studio. But with the majority of the work really being done by Prince, you know, throughout all that period of time through 1999. And then Purple Rain, like I said, the band did quite a bit on that. And then when he did Around the World in a Day again, a lot of that was him with some Wendy and Lisa contributions. And the album after that, then he brought the band back on board again, which I believe was the Parade album, which was the soundtrack from Under the Cherry Moon. And there was, you know, more band participation. And then after the Revolution was disbanded after that album, you had the Sign of the Times album, which I had one song I co-wrote with Prince on there, which is called It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night. And then he came out with Love Sexy, which again was another album that he did the majority of the work on.
Okay.
At that point. And then the Batman soundtrack. And then after the Batman soundtrack, I was, I left at that point, which was at the end of 1990.
Is there a story behind why you left, or what was the?
Kinda, but it's more personal.
Okay.
I just needed to move on at that time, but I just was looking for other things to do, and I was looking to raise a family at that point. Didn't really want to be on the road anymore, primarily.
Well, do you keep in contact with any of the rest of, like, the Revolution at all, or Prince even at this point? Or?
I keep in touch with all of the members of the Revolution from time to time, and there is another special event coming up here March 9th at First Avenue, like we did last year. I don't know if you're aware of that. We did a reunion of the original Revolution.
Yeah.
For the Minnesota Heart Association benefit, which Bobby Z became involved with after suffering from a heart attack in 2010, and he became involved with the Heart Association after that, and then we came together for that last February, And this March 9th, we're going to be doing it again, except with different people. It'll be a different lineup. It'll be myself, Bobby Z, Des Dickerson, the original bassist, Andre Simone, from the early years.
Okay.
He was on the first 3 albums. And then there will be guest artists performing at various times throughout the night with different configurations of musicians. And I won't be up there the whole night. I'll just be coming and going or playing on at certain times. So anyway, I don't know, I suppose I could tell you who's going to be performing then that night. You're going to have Questlove, who was there last year, who did a DJ set for us after we performed. This year he's going to be doing some drum work. And then you've got Maya Rudolph, who is a former member of the Saturday Night Live cast, who is now doing a Prince tribute act called Princess.
Whoa.
I don't know how many of you are aware of that or if you've heard of that yet.
No.
She's been doing it for about a year. You can YouTube that and see performances that she's done in New York with Questlove and his group. And she's done a few out in L.A., and I think she's doing another special Prince tribute show at Carnegie Hall coming up here March 7th. There's a gentleman there that been putting together a show with guest performers, and she's going to be doing something at that event right before she flies into Minneapolis to be with us. And then there's a possibility of CeeLo coming in. He has said that he wants to play with us, but the confirmation has not come in yet. He did tell Bobby Z he wanted to be there. We're just waiting for final confirmation right now.
Okay.
Awesome.
I forgot to mention Alexander O'Neill and Stokely Williams from Mint Condition will also be sitting in at times during the evening. And I believe Alexander O'Neill's backup band will be involved with performing throughout the night with us. So it's just going to be a big party.
Yeah, it sounds like
it'll be fun. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about what you have going on now? I know you have your own studio up in Minneapolis, and you're working on some other stuff.
Yes, I get involved with projects that can come my way in the way of production work, and I do a lot of work with independent artists that are locally based here, although I do session work for people around the planet, and because you can exchange files, just right over the internet these days digitally. You can just have someone send you a song and you play on it and send your parts back to them. I'm also involved with a company that produces video slot machine games that are used in casinos, and I do their sound design work, like sound effects and music. Been doing that for about 4 years now. That's really been quite a bit of what I've been doing lately in between artist projects when they do come in. And just getting ready to be involved with some other producers that are based down in Atlanta and Miami. And they're working with some, major label artists out there. And this is a pretty new development, but it looks like there's going to be some projects coming in here in February and March as well, starting up. So it's mainly session work for me on those projects and some co-production work, that kind of stuff. And other than that, that's about it,
Just keeping busy then.
Just keeping busy when, running the studio here, which is based in my home. It's not really in a separate building or anything. I built it into my house about 17 years ago. People come and go and do their thing, when they want to book the studio.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And then, can you tell us a little bit about the Purple Experience? We've been checking out your website on that.
Yes, the Purple Experience is a Prince tribute show, and it's comprised of local Minneapolis musicians. I was approached by them a couple of years ago to get involved with them to go out and do shows doing Prince music, and now we're going to be expanding the show and making it more of a full R&B pop review with some Prince music in there and time music, and then other artists that aren't necessarily affiliated with Prince, just to expand on it even further. But it's called the Purple Experience currently. Name might change, not sure yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
We just been playing some casinos around the country that you see in most cities that are like the Indian gaming style.
Yeah.
Casinos like Mystic Lakes, places like that. A few corporate events. Maybe about once a month we get out and play.
Yeah, we were hoping maybe we can figure out some way to get you to come down to Mankato. I was talking to Bobby. He's the drummer with you guys, right?
Bobby Vandell,
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct, yeah. Is there a good venue down there that we should look into?
There's quite a few. I sent him a list of some places, and
Oh, good. Okay.
hopefully we can get something worked out, yeah.
Yeah, he's been handling the booking side for the group, and then we have a couple other agents that are handling things as well.
Yeah, hopefully that we can get that worked out.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would come to
Sure.
it for sure.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Well, yeah, I hope we can swing something, get down to Mankato. That'd be great, yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you taking some time out to talk with us here. Do you have anything you want to leave us with or any final thoughts?
Yes, I do, actually. I forgot to mention some of the members of the Purple Experience, and in particular our lead singer, who does an excellent job emulating Prince, and his name is Marshall Charloff. He has written and recorded for the Commodores, worked on one of their albums. He's worked for, Little Anthony and the Imperials at times, and he's even had some Billboard, dance songs charting back with this other producer named John Fields. And, he's done quite a bit of work over the years. He's a very talented guy. And then we've got Bobby Vandell on drums, who's a big veteran of the Minneapolis music scene and toured with Bonnie Raitt, amongst others, Alexander O'Neill. And we have Tracy Blake on guitar, and another excellent musician, and Ace Mack on bass, who's also worked with a lot of name people as well. So we have a great nucleus of musicians in that group. And then one other part I wanted to mention is that I've been working with my son, who's a senior in high school, with his band. They're called Q the Click, which is spelled the letter Q, and then the Click spelled CLIQUE. They have their own Facebook and YouTube channel now, and they'll be putting out their first video within the next month. They just finished shooting it a couple weeks ago, and it's in its editing stages. They've got some interest from some record labels right now, and they'll be working with some fairly well-known producers who've had top 10 hits here coming up. And they'll be coming into my studio and working with them and myself. But I did produce their first initial 4 to 5 demos, which has garnered some pretty significant attention these days by those record companies. So they're just starting to build, their following. They're young and up and coming.
Awesome.
Yeah. And they've been playing around town. They've been doing some gigging around here. And, they're just trying to get through their senior year of high school and move on to college next fall, But I think most of the band, they're going to keep it together, and they're going to continue to perform while they're all in college.
So the legacy continues then.
That's right. I wanted to make a point of mentioning them. That's my son. My son Maxwell is in the group. He's also a keyboard player.
All right.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks a lot for talking with us. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you for helping put the word out about the Purple Experience and all the other stuff we're up to.
Yeah, no problem. And also, quickly, I just want to mention that I once dressed up as Dr. Fink for Halloween.
Awesome.
So there you go.
Got any photos of that?
I think I do, actually.
Oh, I'd love to see that someday.
I'll send one up to you.
Okay, well, I hope we can make it into Mankato and we can meet you guys.
Yeah, that would
be great.
That would be awesome. Hopefully we can work something out.
Perfect.
All right, well, thanks again.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.